This is one of my absolute favorite choke sequences. What I love about it is it's safe, it's effective, and very few people see it coming, particularly the first time that you do it. We're gonna tie up Jesse with his own lapels, and then we're gonna choke him with those lapels. The finishing mechanic is actually pretty simple, very similar to a classic cross choke, but the setup is really intricate and really interesting. Before we get into it, I wanna say two things. First of all, ordinarily, we would wanna slap out their lapels from standing, no, don't do that, before we even got to the mat, right? Because that gives us the ability to manipulate those lapels and choke. But I wanna show that you're able to do this even if the lapels are still stuck in and you have good side control pressure. Second, it took me a long time to get good at this choke. Now it's one of my A-game techniques. So if the only thing you get out of this at first is the control structure, definitely do that. At the end of the day, if we can be on top with control, tying our opponent up, and they are carrying our weight, we're in no danger and they're in constant danger. And that's something that I think we could all strive for. So Jesse's head's gonna be here and his feet's gonna be here. And I'm gonna get my regular side control position, my regular head and arm control. When we have head and arm control in jiu-jitsu, I'm gonna have my near side hand on his head and my far side hand getting an underhook, controlling his head and controlling his arm. He can't have his frames in here to begin this attack, or at least that's ideal for him not to have his frames in. So I have an underhook and I have a control of his head. Part of what makes this choke really effective is a common and really effective escape for Jesse is to get this underhook. And if he gets this far side underhook, now he can come up, start knee tapping me, come out on my back, all sorts of bad things. And so I need to make sure I don't lose that underhook. Our first move for this, my weight's going straight down, I have good shoulder pressure, and my chest is right connected to his chest. I'm gonna take out his lapel with my thumb. I'm gonna pull it out as far as I can at the end of the lapel off to one side. Now this grip is gonna be as tight as I can get it first. I'm gonna pass it to the hand under the head and go palm down. You notice how I'm gripping really close to his armpit? The key to getting the choke part of this technique is knowing when to slack off. As I switch sides, which I'll do in a second, you'll see me gradually slacking off with this hand grip. But for control purposes, I want to feed this as deep as I can, and often I'll just keep feeding until it's as tight as possible. And now you saw how easy it was for Jesse to get on his side before. Try. Really difficult. And so what we've done is given ourselves a mechanical advantage. We call this the mock underhook because it functions as an underhook, but now I have this hand free to start working chokes. There are a number of things we can do from here. We can attack this arm. We can start trying to mount. We can start setting up various other things. But today I'm going to show you a choke that I call the Gi Origami Choke because we're going to tie him up intricately with his gi. So I have my mock underhook and I'm ready to attack. Again though, if it takes you a while to get the finish for the choke, as long as you get to this position, you're going to have a lot of success. So I'm going to continue my control. And when I continue my control, my hand's going to come to his knee so that he can't get his hands in play, and my head is going to come to the mat on his near side hip. When that happens, my shoulder's going to go right into his sternum, and I'm going to tripod up. Now Jesse, move around a little bit. You can see how my weight is still on him and I still have a ton of control. My knees are not going to go to the mat again until the very end when I switch sides because I want to be able to move effectively. So I have him pinned super effectively here, and this is not a comfortable position for Jesse at all. But if he is able to move, I'm able to move more effectively because my knees are not on the mat. So now I'm going to give up this grip and start to walk to the other side. As I walk to the other side, watch my left hand. My left hand is going to gradually get less tight and come toward the end of the lapel, which is going to allow me to pull him onto his side as I walk. Now, as you can see, the blade of my wrist is against his neck. You can even readjust this lapel by feeding if you want. And Jesse, we still have a lot of control over Jesse, right? If he leaves his arm in, there's also a way we can do a Bravo choke, but that'll be a different video. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull out the far side lapel. Ideally, this would already be out, but again, I just wanna show you, you can do this no matter what state the lapels are in. I like to get the lapels right at the very end so we can make them as long as possible. This makes a loop, and I'm gonna put Jesse's head in the loop. So my hand goes under, and I make a loop. We could finish it from here if we just gooned it and like blew out our grips, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna finish with control, technique, and mechanics. I'm gonna take my knee off the mat again, and I'm gonna walk to a north-south position, putting my sternum right in the middle of Jesse's sternum. Now often, just a little wrist movement it's going to be enough to make him tap. Because this is just a normal cross choke, just with his lapels, right? And so the finish is the same. I'll do it less tight next time so that Jesse doesn't have to tap right away. Often, if you have this choke right, they will tap right away, because in addition to the blood choke coming on very quickly, it's often very uncomfortable, especially depending on how tight their lapels are. But I'll loosen up my grips so you can see a couple of finishing details if you don't have it just right. So I'm on top. First, make sure you're on point with your side controlled pressure basics, which is we have active toes, my sternum's connected to his sternum, my middle finger goes into his armpit, and I pull him toward me. My shoulder goes south and under his shin, and I pinch my shoulder to my wrist. Jesse, say something.
Is it uncomfortable?
It's very uncomfortable. If he tries to move around a little, it's really difficult. The harder it is for him to move around, the easier it's going to be for me to pull out this lapel. If he won't get me, let me get the lapel under. We can come over top, and there are other moves we can do with what we call the sling. But for now, let's get the mock underhook. At this stage of the game, we want it as tight as possible, because we don't want Jesse to be able to move around. We want him to carry our weight, and we want to have him tied up. As you see me switch sides, you will see this hand get a little bit looser, which will allow me to pull him on his side and get the other lapel under his neck. Let's keep control. We're going to grab his knee. My shoulder turns down and my head turns down. If he tries to wiggle around, it's a very compromising and uncomfortable position. I'm going to walk around, and you see the blade of my wrist is right now against his neck. I pull this out. When we pull it out, you can grab like the little part of the lapel where the seam connects, or you can grab the end and just get it as long as possible. Now it comes under. I'm going to loosen up my grip, just so Jesse doesn't have to tap right away. You can see that the blades of both of my wrists are against his neck. So when I walk north-south, that's going to cut off both his carotid arteries. Now all cross-collar chokes of this nature involve trying to take my elbows and put them on my hips. So I can just pull my elbows to my hips and he's going to tap. If he's not tapping, what we can do is sink our hips using gravity to pull our hips to our elbows. It's a coffer. That's how you know it's good. Let's do this on the other side. So your feet here, head here, and at a slightly different angle. I'm doing this on the other side for 3 reasons. First, I want y'all to get a different view. Second, I want to prove that you can be ambidextrous with this choke very easily and very efficiently. And third, to show you one reason why I really like this choke, which is, let's say you don't get it. Because the first few times you try this, you're not going to get it, right? Unless you're a skilled grappler already against a lesser opponent, things get messed up, right? There's lots of components to this choke. What I love about it is, if you don't get the choke, cool. You're still on top, you're still carrying his weight, or he's still carrying your weight, and you still have him tied up with his lapels. So now you have the opportunity to switch sides, like I'm about to do, try the choke the other way. Now, once you get good at it, this is one to keep in the arsenal because you don't see this choke very often. And the first time you get it, like if I'm serious about choking a skilled opponent, this is one of the first things I go for. So I get my nice shoulder pressure, take the lapel out. Remember, for the mock underhook, we want it really tight at first to stop him from getting on his side. We want our palm down here, right? It's going to allow us to choke him at the end and allow us to control him really easily now. Hand to the knee, head is going to come to the near side hip. Butt goes in the air and we tripod up. As I walk, I'm gonna slack off with my gi grip. You can readjust with the gi. He's still in no position to stop you. Pull the lapel out as far as you can. Again, there's 2 little components of this gi where you can use this to pull it out really easily. You can also get the end of the lapel, make it nice and long. That is the hole where his head is gonna go in. We lift his head and bring it under. Now I'm gonna walk north-south, drop my hips, and pull my elbows to my hip bones. So we call that the Gi Origami Choke. One of the things that's like, just a couple of other quick details, more strategic details. Typically, if I'm in a sport jiu-jitsu match, I like to swap my opponent's lapels out when we're standing. The reason for this is once they're out, they tend to forget about them and forget what you can use them for. So whether you want to use them to play lapel guard, whether you want to use them for various sweeping techniques, or whether you want to use them for this, by the time you get to the mat, if they've forgotten about it, that works really well for you. Second reason, right? We can work this technique in combination with lots of other techniques. So when we get good at this one, it becomes A game, and they have to respect it. Once we're able to control them with one arm and their lapel, then we can start setting up things like chokes I call the sling choke, far side arm bars, mount takes, and all sorts of things. So this can be a really core part of your arsenal. I've had a lot of success with it and hope you do too.